Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Ah, perfect.
How are how are you, Eddie?
I'm doing good. We're just waiting for Terry to come on.
Okay. So
It's always,
this is the first time
yeah.
I've ever done anything like this. Is there anything that you can uh pointers or anything like that on how this podcast works? I've listened to them, but I've never been a part of one.
Basically, I just, have it go kind of raw, unedited. Just let people, do their thing, unscripted, and you just, you know, uh, Terry, may ask you a few questions, and you basically just run with it. Whatever comes to your mind from your heart, you just tell what you need to tell. Are you there? I think I lost you, Adam.
Hello?
There you go.
Okay. Your co-host, his or her name is.
The co-host is Terry. She's the one that initially, I believe,
Oh, okay.
reached out to you, and she reached out to me as well.
Okay. Perfect. Terry and Eddie. Okay.
Right. So actually, I think what I'll do is just kind of. So basically, what I'm going to start off with, just kind of give a basic disclaimer to the audience, which is
Okay.
basically any information that is provided to the audience, that the audience hears or reads on the website, social media, etc., is not professional advice. It's not financial tax advice. It's not legal advice. It's basically general information. You can find that pretty much anywhere. Just got to do a little of your own research to find it. It's publicly available.
Okay.
And the information for my audience, and again, this is for the audience as well, the information provided by my host and my my audience and participation member is, their information, and you know, they are everyone's responsible for their own stuff. So I have a quick question. Are you trying to connect by phone, or are you trying to connect by your laptop computer or computer? Hello, Adam?
Okay. I'm not sure what's going on. So can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, I figured out what's going on. I just got to keep the app open, or else it shuts down and you lose connection with me. So I
All
will
right.
I will
It's
work
usually
on.
something like that to get the things problem. So
Yeah.
I gave my little basic disclaimer for the both for you and the audience when they hear the podcast. And when Terry comes online, we'll get a little notice, and she can, kind of maybe ask some questions she may have. But
Okay.
in the meantime, it's pretty much your floor. Tell as much as you like. No pressure. This is your voice.
Okay. And just let me know when you're ready to start, and I will start talking.
You're good to start right now. So, Adam, if you like, you can begin
For
with your story.
desperate need for help, and to get my basically my voice heard as a father. And I want tell Carrie and Eddie I appreciate them wanting to listen to what I have to say. So I'll begin what I have to say. Everything started
What?
on my son's birthday. He came up to me and said that his mother had bought him a pink dress. And I calmly got down on one knee and I told my son that he's a boy and boys don't wear dresses. And that was the end of the conversation between me and my son. We went back for cake and ice cream and had a great time. About 2 days later, it had really bothered me what my son had told me, and I I I may not have handled the situation um, in an adult manner, and I believe that I have paid for my actions. My actions that I did were not a threatening um, manner. There was no physical threat to my son's mom, but I used the court appointed app that they had given me to communicate with my son's mom, and I used that. And when I mean I used that, I sent her 46 text messages stating that I would like her to stop dressing my son in girls' clothes, that he is a boy and boys don't wear girls' clothes. About a week after I sent those text messages out, I got a knock on the door from our local sheriff's department, and she had slapped me with a restraining order against me, and I was not allowed to see my son anymore. Um, and I don't know how I felt, but I didn't feel that what I did deserved that. So we went to court, and we went to court, and they the only communication I had with my son was FaceTime that the judge ordered. I would receive 2 FaceTime calls with my son on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And one of the conversations that I had with my son, his mother had bought him rainbow shoes. And I spoke to his mother and I said, do not put my son in rainbow shoes. She then proceeded to call the local police department, Pasadena Police Department, and at 4 a.m., I was pulled over, pulled out of my car, and arrested for a restraining order violation. The restraining order violation was because I spoke to her about not putting my son in rainbow shoes. So, for a few months down the line, um, the judge had ordered a gender assessment to be done on my son. And I continued to speak out against this, and they continued to silence me. Um, they silenced me with the police department when I asked how his dental appointment would go, how his dental appointments went. They called the police department on me. They called the police department on me when I asked how a doctor's visit went. By the way, I pay for my son's medical, dental, and vision. My son has amazing health insurance through my work. Um, so the gender assessment got postponed because lawyers were involved at Children's Hospital of Los Angeles. And when he did finally have his assessment done, the doctor at Children's Hospital of Los Angeles specifically stated that my son was not suffering from gender dysphoria. And I took that as a good thing. But on the lawyer's end, And on the judges, not the judge, but the lawyers end, they proceeded to push this wanting to be a girl upon my son. A quick backstory: my my son's mother has started dressing my son in girls' clothes at the age of 2. She sent me a picture via text message, and I had the same reaction as to when I found out that my son's mom had bought him a pink dress. And she stopped it for a while, and then once she got sole custody of my son, she proceeded to ramp up the the pushing and the forcing of him to wear girls' dresses. So now my son just recently started seeing this child therapist, and my son now is going by a girl's name, and he is 100% wearing girls' attire. I also paid for private school, and again, this whole system that I'm going through has been very, very, very one-sided. Not at one time has any lawyer or any judge sat me down and asked me how I feel or how what I think is going on with my son. They have taken her side and completely, one, weaponized the restraining order, and two, in my beliefs, they're pushing this further and further upon my son to the point where I don't feel that there's going to be any way to reverse what has happened to my son over the last 2 years. They have removed any male influence in my son's life. To give you some aspect on what I've been dealing with, I've been sitting on Christmas gifts for the last 3 years, and the lawyers have not been able to negotiate and refuse to negotiate for me to give my son Christmas gifts. I have not spent Christmas or any holiday with my son in 3 years. I am still sitting on Christmas gifts from 3 years ago that are sitting in my garage. Um, and I don't feel that that's right to remove a male figure just because his beliefs or his opinion or his feelings on what is going on with his son is different from what their position is. And not at one time has anybody, there's not been a person straight down the middle. It's all been one-sided. And I really don't feel that is right, especially removing a perfectly good father from his son's life. I've always argued the fact that if I was a drug addict, an alcoholic, or some type of criminal, that I deserve the punishment that I'm receiving right now, but I'm not. I have an amazing job. I've never been in trouble with the police department. I've never been arrested. I think the last time before this situation, the last time I was in court was when I was 16 and I got caught smoking cigarettes at the age of 16, and I had to go to court for that. That's the only time myself has been in court. And they've criminalized me for not having the same feelings and opinions on what is going on with my son. And in fact, I don't know what's going on with my son because they have completely cut me out. They've completely cut me out of everything that is going on with my son. They refuse, the court system and the lawyers refused for me to talk to the therapist. They refused me to have my own personal psychologist during the gender assessment. They are threatening criminal action upon me because I feel what they are doing to my son is child abuse. And in my opinion, what they're forcing upon my son is child abuse. And I just can't wrap my head around why they would do this to a little boy at such a young age and cut a perfectly good father out of his life a perfectly good grandpa and a perfectly good grandma that hasn't seen their grandson in 3 years just because my opinions and my feelings and how I feel what's going on with my son doesn't meet their opinions. Um, and it's really sad to see how the state of California is just completely removing me as the father from my son's life, and I haven't done anything to deserve the removal of my son's life. When I was arrested for for the restraining order violation in regards to on his rainbow shoes, it was they never asked me, they never knocked on the door. They sent 15 officers to my house and pulled me over at 4:30 in the morning. I don't know where I'm going with all this. This whole thing for my son has been very one-sided. I love and I miss my son, but it's been the last 3 years has been so difficult for me. I have removed everything that reminds me of my son from my house. I don't, there's no pictures on the wall. There's no pictures in my vehicle of my son. I usually had pictures in my work truck of my son or in my personal vehicle of my son, and I removed all that. I have deleted photos of my son that was on my phone because it's too difficult for me to look and see my son because I have been eliminated from my son's life. Over 46 text messages that were not threatening in any manner or not yeah, not threatening. They say that, oh, we're doing this is for safety for your son, but I have not put my son's safety in jeopardy to deserve what the state of California and the police department and the lawyers and his mom has done to me. And the biggest thing is that we're not just dealing with child support. We're not dealing with we're not dealing with support or visitation or anything like that. We're dealing with a, a, a little boy's identity and a little boy's gender here that's going to affect this little boy for the rest of his life. And it's very hard to see what they're doing to my son and not able to help my son. I can't find anybody to defend my son's identity, defend defend my son's rights. The she's supposed to advocate for my son, but she hasn't done any advocating to protect my son. And anytime I get angry or I get mad with her to help protect him, to understand what my son is going through. And I tell her, if my son had been 10 years old and come to me with this, that would be a different story. He's lived a long enough life.
Adam, can you hear me?
Sorry, Adam, I think we dropped the connection with you again.
I'm sorry. Do you guys have any questions for me, or do you have any questions for me on this? I know I feel like I'm just rambling and I'm all over the place, and I really feel for my son, and I'm terrified for my son.
No. Is there anything you'd like to ask, Terry, or anything? I know kind of had some delays on some stuff. Terry?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes, I can hear you. I don't know if you heard what I said. The state of California is playing God basically with my son's identity and my son
I'm so sorry to hear this. This is like a George Orwell 1984 kind of a nightmare novel. And
And I
California
understand.
signed legislation in September of 2022, and they are working on taking away custody of any child who their parent doesn't agree with this surgery, which, by the way, there's some horrific side effects that they don't bring up. And in addition, 80% of the kids who have this dysphoria they're speaking about disappears when they hit 18
Right,
because their brains and their bodies kick in hormones, and then they kind of start to feel differently about the whole thing.
right.
Uh, how old is your son?
My son is 4.
Oh, for Pete's sake!
But
And
this started at even a younger age. When I first found out about this, he was 2 years old, and my son's mother had dressed him up in a princess dress, and I told her in a text message, "Don't dress my son in girls' clothes." And now, did I say it the wrong way? I probably did, but no father wants to see their son dressed up that way.
I think
And
you have
and
every right to say that. Um, Although just dressing him like that doesn't necessarily mean anything. I mean, there's still a
correct,
baby at that age, but you are his father, and morally and legally, you have every right to put your beliefs, your ethical, religious, moral beliefs, into
Terry,
the raising of that child.
they have
Um,
stripped. They have
could I
stripped.
ask, were you married in a Catholic church or raised in a Catholic church?
No, me and his mother weren't married.
Okay. Do you have any religious beliefs?
I do, yes, I do.
Okay. Then who is the state to interfere on those beliefs? And
Terry, my sorry to interrupt you, but my rights as a
Mhm.
father have been completely and I'll say it again, have been completely stripped from me
Yes.
because I do not agree with the lawyer's point of view and the state's
Mhm.
point of view on what's going on my son. Not in this last 3 years, Terry, not one time has anybody ever sat me down as the father of my son and asked me what I think or how I feel. And I told the judge that if you would have, if all 3 lawyers would have sat me down and we all had an adult conversation about this, you would have had a completely different father on your hands. But because you cut me out and you don't take my opinion or my feelings or my beliefs into consideration here, you have the angry father that you have on your hands today. And when I mean angry, I don't mean threatening, and I don't mean I'm going to go do something horrific. No, I mean yelling and screaming because no one is listening to me. No one,
I, I I
and
completely understand that.
they
I
have,
don't.
Terry, they have criminalized me as the father because what they say is that, oh, you don't understand what your son is going through. And I would tell him, I said, you're right, I don't understand what my son is going through because you have cut the male figure out of his life just because he doesn't agree with your point of view. I said, you
Truth.
I said, you can't do that. You cut myself, the father out of his life. And I told the lawyers and the judge, I said, I can understand you cutting me out of my son's life if I was a criminal, if I was an alcoholic, if I was a drug addict, or if I was some deadbeat dad that wasn't paying child support, absolutely. Or if I had, when I sent my text messages out, that there was threatening matter to the text messages, but there was nothing threatening about the text message that I sent. The text message that I sent out were just stating, do not dress my son as a girl. He is a boy, and boys wear boys' clothes and girls wear girls' clothes. And I was
And you're
arrested.
entitled, you are completely entitled to that belief or opinion. And I
Thank you.
don't think that they have the right to take that away. Nobody should have that right.
They
And
have, Terry.
to
They have.
impose this um, they say that a lot of times this outgrows it. Also, the medicines that they introduce are very dangerous.
And that's the other
Um,
thing that terrifies me, because at the age of 5, from what I understand, that they can start pumping my son full of pills to start that transition. And I think I have been when I first had my son, I maybe posted 2 pictures of my son on social media, and I'm not dogging parents that post millions of pictures of their kids over the internet. That's fine. You're proud to have a kid. That's great. I just didn't want my son to be blasted all over the internet at a very young age, because there's so many creeps out there. There's so many. It's just not good. And I received a text. I posted 2 things on Facebook. By the way, I did a welfare check on my son a couple Fridays ago, and I received a phone call from my son's attorney, and we had not a very nice conversation together, because she believes that there's more than 2 genders, and she also believes that that people are not born male and female, that they're assigned a gender. That just tells you the mindset that I'm working with here, is that they don't believe that there's 2 genders. She believes that people are assigned a gender, and then I don't know what that means, assigned a gender. And I told her, I said I don't understand what you mean by that. I said, for thousands of years there's been two genders in this world, male and female, and now all of a sudden in the last 10 years you're trying to force this belief that there's more than 2 genders down my throat. And I can't wrap my head around that. One, because I know it's not true, and 2, it's not true. You know,
Sure.
it's if people would know what they're doing to fathers in the state of California. The lawyers were coming after me for $1,900 a month for child support. $1,900 a month child support. Now I pay $13.50 a month for one kid. I also pay for all of his medical, all of his dental. My job has phenomenal medical, phenomenal dental, and phenomenal vision. I also was paying for private school for my son during the pandemic, when COVID was really bad, because I didn't want my son to suffer from a social disorder or social anxiety. I wanted him to be around kids his age and work on his social skills. And when the last time I spoke to my son's social skills are above and beyond any 4-year-old out there, and even younger than that. And his mother wanted him to go from 3 days a week to 5 days a week. And the school district never called me and said, "Hey, we're upping his time. What do you think? This is how much it's going to cost." They just went ahead and upped his time without calling me to ask if I could even afford the additional cost of the private school. And I'm in another fight with the school about not having to pay that extra amount, because I never agreed to it. My argument to them is, how are you going to charge me when I never agreed to it, or you never called to let me know or discuss it with me, even if I could afford it?
That's what's happening across the United States. The kids are being indoctrinated in schools, they've come to find out, and they don't have to give you any information on it. I think they said 12 states that are fighting them on it. But the federal government is really digging in. They want all these states. California is notorious because if anybody gets a kid down there, if a teenager hitchhikes there, or if a mother who does not have custody, if she can get their kid down there, then they will fight them in court tooth and nail to get this done to these kids. So this is a big thing that a lot of people are not aware of, and it's frightening, because who would have thunk that? And I think you're right. As a father, especially when you're the one paying the bills. It's completely railroaded off to the side, which family court is notorious about. But they've taken everyone's rights, and done this now. Going to give him medicine and psychological reprogramming at 5. And then, as I said, your children are going through this, and they are unaware. Their families are unaware that this is happening. So there's so many things that you cannot do until you are 18 years old. You can't join the military. You can't buy cigarettes. You can't even buy paint, spray paint. So how the heck are they all deciding this? That you can't sign a contract if you're underage. So I'd like to know how these states are doing this, and what is it to the states? What business is it of theirs? And they're also there's a bill in Washington that they want Medicaid to cover all of this, and the surgery is between 125 for female to be male, and for male to be a female, about 140,000. That's like taxpayers' money. So somehow the states are making out on this. They don't like to make that public, but they get different amounts of money from the federal government for doing these things, which it's like I said, it's not something I can Google. Although I'm working on it, they're in one way or another making out on this. The American Medical Association is also involved. They want parents to back off. They say that they're not allowed, but yet they take an oath as well, not to make things worse, to make them better. And I don't know how legally they can step in and take over parental rights. I mean, that's a given right. The minute you're involved in a pregnancy, there are some human rights, like in a human court, a world court, that will acknowledge that you are given the right to be a father. And for these people to come and destroy all this, it's very brave of you to get on here and say this, because so many more people are this is happening and they aren't even aware.
And
They
to
have
be honest
no
with you, Terry,
clue.
they have no clue. And to be honest with you, with me posting stuff on the internet, on Facebook, like I have, and I've already been threatened by her lawyer that if I continue the route that I'm going, by doing a welfare check on my son, that she will press criminal charges against me for false accusations of child abuse. My argument to her was, how can they be false accusations of child abuse when I feel what they're doing to my son is child abuse? You cannot criminalize somebody for having a different opinion or a different belief than you.
Right. What if your son told you he wanted to smoke cigarettes?
Right.
And he's 5 years old. Why on earth would you
I would
allow that?
I would tell him, don't smoke.
How does your wife justify this to you, that this is what your child wants, when the child has no way of knowing until they are an adult, probably in their 20s, of what they would want? So how does she tell you? I mean, what does she say to you about justifying this?
I don't speak to her. I'm not allowed to speak to her because it's a violation of the restraining order, which I'm totally okay with. I prefer not to talk to her.
Sure.
But one of my arguments is that if you put a drug addict and an alcoholic in the room together and say, all right, you have a choice today. Either you're gonna drink alcohol or you're gonna be sober. That person is going to drink the alcohol, because,
of course,
you don't encourage this a behavior. You in this case, you encourage, especially at a young age, in my opinion, you encourage, especially when I believe that it's been forced upon him, that you encourage him to raise him as the gender that he was born as. I've spoken to a lot of mothers in this aspect, and a lot of mothers are in disbelief, one, that this is happening to me because they know I'm such a private person, and I'm just a very private person, but they can't believe that a mother would one, in my opinion, force this upon their son or a boy, and be getting away with it. I try not to bring politics, and I try not to bring religion into this aspect of it, because in California, when you bring political stuff or you bring religion into it, they label you more as this kook. And I'm not crazy, and I'm not a kook or anything like that. I'm just a father that misses his son, that hasn't physically given his son a hug in 3 years. I'm a father that has removed everything that reminds him of his son from his home, because it's too difficult to look at pictures or see certain things of his son, because of what they're doing to him. In the last 2 weeks, it's been difficult the last 2.5 years, going on 3 years, but the last 2 weeks, it's been extremely more difficult for me. I just started sleeping with my son's comforter. They had trucks and trash trucks on it and everything like that, because I'm trying to hold on to my son before this system, the state, the lawyers completely ruin my son even more than he has already been ruined by this belief system that these people are going through. I don't know what else to say. I just can't believe that they have, one, done this to my son, and two, they have criminalized me and my family for having completely and total different belief systems in what is going on here. My I don't have a very big family. It's me, my brother, and my mom and dad, and we're a very, very close family. And this is completely destroyed my mom, my son's grandma. It is a heavy toll on my father, his grandpa. They've been criminalized as much as I have, because they haven't physically seen their grandson as long as I haven't seen my grandson. I mean, my son. And they had nothing to do with this. Like, the grandparents had nothing to do with this. All they want to do is watch their grandson grow up, and they've been criminalized as much as, or if not more than, myself.
It's not a fair thing. I'm really sorry. I haven't seen my grandchildren in about 1.5 years. So we're all part of this. The problem with the family court is that it's not like a criminal court, but they do convict people of crimes and they punish them. And this is going, I believe, under the jurisdiction of family court. And it's not right and it's not fair that they criminalize and punish you like this. When you're not a criminal, you're actually a responsible, caring parent. We're all in this, and it just needs to be turned around. We're trying to find different ways on this, and like I said, they're doing this. People don't like to talk about this subject, and some people don't like to hear about it. But in staying quiet again, it just makes it easier for them to pick the next victim that they're going to pull. So hopefully, if people start getting on the legislators and all this political, this actually has been going on since Barack Obama allowed the CARE Act, and they want for, like, as I said, Medicaid, Medicare, or any insurance company to pay for this. But somehow they're making money, and that's all they care, is their bottom line. So if people could write to the state of California legislation, their governor, it's Senate Bill 107 that they passed, that takes away parents' rights if their child comes to the state for gender-affirming health care. And that needs to be stopped. I'm not sure how, but we've got a lot of good minds in this country, and we all need to email, just flood them with emails. And there is a little bit of talk of marching on Washington. I don't know how safe that would be.
Yeah.
But we're trying to get some kind of attention. I've written to so many different governors. I've written to the Senate, and it's just completely against everybody's amendments. The 5th, 6th, 14th, no due process, being accused of being a criminal. There is no, you've done nothing wrong. That the way that they came after you and the way they took away your son, you haven't done anything wrong. And
No,
it's all illegal what they've done. They've just violated everybody's constitutional rights, and your child too. He's not 18, and
right.
I mean, I wanted to be a cowboy when I was growing up, and that's the furthest type of person I am. I'm more of a girly girl than anybody I know.
Right.
But it just seemed interesting, and I was, this is a fantasy. I'm going to ride a horse and shoot a gun,
Right.
and that's the furthest thing from my mind that I wanted to be or live my life as I got older. And I think I was like probably 6 years old at the time. So imagine if they would have taken that seriously.
Right. Right.
I would have been miserable the rest of my life, because it's not what I wanted. It was just a passing fancy, pretty much.
Right.
So
yeah, I've got a criminal court case on the 28th of April. When in regards to the arrest, they made me take anger management classes, and they made me take 52 weeks of child abuse parenting classes. And my argument was in court, why do I need anger management and why do I need parenting classes when I haven't done anything that requires anger management and parenting classes? It was a diversionary on there.
Of course.
So I got stuck for 52 weeks in a class full of parents that have abused their kids. And I sat in that class for 52 weeks thinking to myself, why am I here? I haven't done anything to my son to deserve this. These court cases have I told the judge the last time I was in court, I said, this whole case has been based off of feelings and emotions and assumptions. You have not shown one article of evidence or facts that shows that I'm a horrible father, or I hurt my son's mom in any way physically. You haven't shown any facts or evidence that I hurt my son physically or emotionally. I said I had a 3-second calm conversation with my son about this, and that was it. And then after that, you completely cut the male figure out of his life because you were assuming and you were going off assumptions of feelings. You can't run a case. You can't have a case like this on assumptions, feelings, and emotions. I said you've instead of innocent until proven guilty, it's guilty until proven innocent. And that's how I feel, and not how I feel. That is exactly what is going on in my case, is that they've proven me guilty, and now I have to extremely prove myself as innocent. And
Well, I hope that any parents out there in California that are against this, I hope that they are out there protesting. I know that it sounds like, well, what's that going to do? But people have been sitting down for so long, and this is going to be happening to them. So they need to get out there. They need to protest this. And what was your court date?
My next court date for the criminal matter is on April 28th.
April 28th. Is that, are you to be in California, or is that remote?
No, that's in California. I live in California.
Okay.
And when I had my previous court date, I never knew that there was a criminal protective order on me. So the school that my son was going to won't call me, won't return emails from me. So I went to the school. One, I wanted to see my son. I wanted to give my son a hug. I haven't given my son a hug in almost 3 years. So I wanted to hug my son. And I also wanted to talk to them about the bill. And when I left in a calm, cool, collective manner, when I went to court the next day, I found out, and just recently I got a call from the sheriff's department stating that I had violated the restraining order, and they're pressing charges against me for criminal charges against me for violating the criminal protective order. And I know you guys and whoever is listening to this is thinking, well, this man must have done something extremely bad that he's not telling us for all this to come upon him. And I am telling you the God honest truth. I have done nothing to deserve what I have gone through in the last 3 years. Nothing I did.
Completely, totally believe you. I would have thought otherwise, going, well, if a judge says that a father can't be near the kids, I wonder what he's done. When in fact, if you have any experience with family court, you can see exactly how they operate. I mean, we had called the police, and they refused to make any report that would go against the mother, and she was abandoning them in horrific places.
My son's mother punched me. This is how crazy this is. My son's mother punched me in the back of the head, and I called the police department on her, and she was arrested for domestic violence. And just to come to find out, the Pasadena Police Department the city attorney, the Pasadena Police Department didn't file charges against her for domestic violence. But I send out 46 text messages, and I raise my voice in court, and I'm being treated as if I had murdered somebody. That's how crazy this thing is.
They can send you away and keep you away from your child. So you have to pay 100% child support because she's got 100% custody. And what people don't realize is the state of California keeps 30% of that. And you get to pay back any kind of help that she gets from the state, like food stamps or anything like that. They charge you 30% interest and fines and penalties and anything you give to her, even if a lot of people, they take their pension. They're trying to force my son to sell his home right now. So the state wants 30% of that. And he said, well, why can't I just cash her out? I'll give her $65,000 and I want to keep the house. They said no, because they don't want 30% of $65,000. They want 30% of the entire home and any property. So that's how this all starts out. So the state is making money. That's always the bottom line. Mm-hmm. And the United States is so good with this that Australia, Canada, Africa, many countries and continents are copying this because all the states are in the black, and it's all because the fathers.
Yeah.
And
And I'm not gonna. And I'll be honest with you. I am terrified that I'm gonna go back to jail again. I am
well, I
terrified.
may just join you in jail. I've been warned twice to keep my mouth shut, but
I'm
I
terrified.
won't.
I'm terrified every morning that
Well, we're going to put your name out there, and if you get arrested, the whole world's going to know. Believe me. We're going to watch you closely, and hopefully, they will keep you out of harm's way. And one thing for sure, as your son does get older, he will know that you fought for him, and that you tried to
I don't think he will.
do your best. Oh, yes, he will. A lot of these kids right now. My granddaughter asked, "Where are you, Dad? Why haven't you come to get us?" And he's not allowed to tell her because the court ordered that I can't. He's not allowed to say anything negative. So a lot of these guys have gag orders, and they know you. All these father support groups are in the same boat with you, and they know. And the same with me. I would have never believed until I got to court and watched what they did to destroyed my family, and what they're capable of. And I think the United States needs to be put on trial, and I think these people all need to be tried for treason because they have used and abused the Constitution of every parents that they've destroyed these rights. They need to all be tried with treason, because the bottom line on all of this is for their medical, for their experiments, for the state coffers. It's all for money and their own advances. And this needs to be stopped. The sooner the better. And I have a lot of respect for you for doing this for your child. And at some point in his life, if not today, hopefully next week or whatever, at some point in his life, he could say, why didn't anybody try to stop this?
So.
And guess what? He'll know that you did.
I hope so. I hope
he
so.
will.
I hope so, because he told the therapist that the reason why he puts dresses on is because my dad doesn't like it. That doesn't sound like a boy that is struggling with anything. That some of this stuff is that my son is going through has been forced upon him, and now it's gone from 10 miles an hour to 1,000 miles an hour, for the lawyers to be calling him my daughter, and the lawyers to be referring to him as a she in court. And when I speak out against it in court, they end up having 15 deputies in the courtroom when I start to speak. When I start to raise my voice, try to protect my son from this, they feel threatened enough to have 15 officers in the court. And
well, if I was in that court and somebody was abusing my child like that, they would need all those 15 police there. Who wouldn't fight for their child? Who wouldn't? And that in itself is an example of a good father.
Terry, they don't care about, in my opinion, they don't care about the father. They don't care. They don't care about the father. And another opinion that I have in all this is that they're afraid of a strong alpha male for some reason in the state of California. And in my opinion, I feel that they're trying to demasculate the man. And that might sound crazy to people, but that's how I see it, because I see it on the TV, I see it in commercials, I see it everywhere, that they're taking the strong alpha hunting male and they're showing that this strong alpha hunting warrior male is wrong for society. You need to be in touch with your feelings. You need to be more sensitive. You need to be all that. But a male can be all those things, but at the same time be a warrior and be a hunter, a
Yes.
gatherer of what men have. It's in our DNA to be those things, and there's nothing
You
wrong.
can see the effects of a lot of kids right now making these, they want things handed to them, and they're not making strong decisions. They're not, applying themselves. And I think that's because the father does, I think the mother and the father, you need both. That's why I've always been
Correct.
for a
Absolutely.
50-50, custody. But the
And can,
father does contribute. I don't care what anybody says. The father is very good for discipline, for strength, for leadership. And they've been doing this for thousands of years.
right.
So I don't, they have no right to take that away from the child. Zero right.
Yeah.
The father's a lot of times the voice of reason, or someone to coax you along, stand up, try this, try that, and not giving into these playthings or listening to others. And I think you're correct. They are trying to demasculate the whole society. I would have to agree with you there.
And that's just my opinion. uh, you know, but from what I've seen in the last 3 years is, I don't know why. I sit down when I get home from my 12-hour day at work, and I sit there and try to figure out what is so threatening about me. What have I done to deserve the treatment that I'm receiving over the last 3 years? And I look back on everything. Every day I sit there and replay it in my mind, and I go, all I did was use words. All I did was use words. No physical harm was done to anybody. No, nothing. And I just can't sit around and wrap my head around why they have done this to me, and more importantly, why they're doing this to my son, who's the most
For
innocent.
your bank account, that's what they want, and that's usually that's it. And you have done nothing wrong, and they want to make you believe that you have. And all the dads out there, no, you have every right to do what you've been doing. And any father who does not stand up for their child is lacking in being a father. So at some level in your heart and soul, you have to know that you have done nothing wrong, and don't fall into that. That's what they
No,
want. Then
no,
they give you more classes and more pills. That's what they're about. So
yeah,
you know that you have been a good father.
thank you.
Um,
I appreciate
and
that.
that's very obvious to anybody. You're involved. You're doing what you know is best, and you're not letting the child be like the tail wag the dog.
Right.
Like you can't give into it. This is his life. This is not playtime.
Exactly.
and and
This is not
somebody
dress up
needs
time.
to yeah, and somebody needs to let him know this. You're playing this maybe when you're older, maybe when you're 25 or something, and you want to do that, then let's talk about it again.
Right.
But
That's been my argument, Terry, too, about this.
yes,
Let him be a boy. Don't force this
yeah,
upon him. Let him let him let him grow to whatever. My job as a parent is to
yeah.
mold my kid or my son
Mhm.
into the image that I would like him to be. And if he grows to be how, I'm not here to be his friend, I'm here to be his father.
Yes, that's very
Exactly.
important.
I don't
It's 1,000% important, because the kids have 900 friends. Look on
right,
Facebook. There's
right.
only one father and one mother.
I'm
So you
40
are correct.
I'm 43 years old, and I don't look at my dad as my friend. I look at my dad as my father. I look at my dad, who raised me to be the man I am today.
Yes.
You know, and me and my father's relationship was never great, but I knew my father loved me, and I knew my father cared for me, not because I heard I love you every single day or I got hugs and kisses from him every day, but because I had a roof over my head, I had food in my stomach, and I was warm every single day of my life.
And he gave you another perspective on your thinking. And that's what fathers do. They don't
Right.
just pat you on the head and go, yeah, that's a good idea, go ahead. They make you stop and think. Well, even if it's for a moment, even if they don't listen, you stop and go, dad's done all this. Look at what he's done.
Right.
He's always looked out for my well-being.
Right.
Maybe I'm going to listen or give it a thought, a moral compass, to point you in a direction that a lot of other people out there, they're not worried about his well-being. They're worried about an agenda.
Yes.
And the kids all need a father to help them with that,
Yep.
especially in this climate.
Yep. My son is 4 years old, and I've probably spent a total amount of time with my son, maybe a year and a half total with my son, because of everything that's been going on. So, I don't know. I don't know what to. I'm almost at a loss. That's why I think I agreed to do this podcast with you guys, because I feel that I'm stuck. I have no other options. There's no lawyer out there that either the lawyer's $30,000-$40,000 to hire, and then $2,000 an hour after that, or
Yes.
they don't want to touch this whole gender aspect because they're afraid of what it might do to, one, their practice, two, their
Yes.
degree, and three, what they work hard for. And I completely and totally understand that. But at the same time, I need a lawyer that is not afraid to put their legal hands around their throats and shake them a little bit and say, what you're doing to this little boy is destroying him, not for a year, not for two. You're destroying him for the rest of his life.
Right.
You're destroying his identity. The identity is everything that we have.
True.
Your identity is you. And what they're doing to my son is they're destroying his identity. They're destroying my son's identity. And one other thing that I never told you guys is that the lawyer in this case, he is, from what I can understand, he is gay himself. And when he first started practicing law, he practiced law down in Hollywood and represented the gay community down in Hollywood. And one of my arguments has been for this whole entire thing is that I wanted a new judge. I wanted a judge that was down the middle, not too far to the right, not too far to the left, but straight down the damn middle. And I was told that I could not request a new judge. And I feel that if I have had a different judge who was more down the middle, that things would not have escalated as quickly as they have escalated in this case.
Right on.
Well, I'm going to watch very closely what happens here, and I hope others do as well. If anybody's in California, start writing to your governor, your district attorney. I would be out there protesting.
Our district attorney here in California I'm sure you guys know, but the district attorney here in California is an absolute very scary individual. Gavin Newsom is not very good himself. And I know we the people, if you want to say it that way, have the power, but it doesn't feel like especially here in the state of California, that we, the people, have the power anymore. It's
Right.
the politicians. I don't like talking politics when it comes to this certain situation, because I feel that it clouds it up a little bit, or people would think, oh,
Yes.
this guy's just doing this for political reasons. That's why I try to steer clear.
I think all the fathers that will listen to this will understand, as I said, if they've gone through family court, they can understand how the system works against them, and also to make them feel like they've done something wrong. But there's like 2 million fathers out there that haven't seen their kids, and they're all standing behind you. Um,
And if I could
think,
say, sorry, if I could say one last thing to the fathers out there,
yeah.
hold your little boys tightly. Just, you don't have to be their friend, you don't have to be anything, but just protect your boys in this. Spend as much time with your boys as possible. If you have girls, spend as much time with your girls too, because the girls are, they're girls, and you protect your daughters. But for the men and your sons, just come home and be grateful that you have your son with you, because this last 3 years has been absolutely difficult for me. I'm surprised that I haven't had my cigarette habit has gone through the roof. I'm so stressed out. My mom is worried about my health because I'm so stressed out. And just spend as much time with your boys.
You have to try to take care of yourself, because at some point when your child comes back, you want to be healthy and you want to be able to enjoy your time with them. And you do, you're a human being as well, and you shouldn't sacrifice yourself like that. But try to take care of yourself as best you can.
Yeah.
And
I don't think my son's coming back to me.
He will, maybe. You know what? At some point, I think that they think back, and they get older, and they want to make peace, or whatever you call it, and I'll bet you at some point he will.
But at what cost, Terry? At what cost? At what cost? At what cost to him is that going to be? Is he going to come knocking on my door?
Hopefully this should be stopped before anything goes further. That would be the ideal scenario, and that's what you need to picture. This needs to stop. The government has just stepped in and destroyed and taken away so much. It needs to be stopped. So hopefully, I would love to see a group of attorneys representing, like in a class action suit, all the fathers who've had their lives sidetracked and taken over, and they've been made into slaves. And I would just love to see them go into Congress, and I would love to see them demand the biggest lawsuit in history. They say that the slave generations later, that they want reparations. Well, I'd like to see reparations for the fathers, like immediately. Although just giving them their 50% custody would be wonderful. But I would really like to abolish family court, because it's not a family court. It's an abomination. That's what it is. So I'll be rooting for you and your son. And like I said, don't let anybody make you believe that you're less than anything but a good father.
I appreciate
a very good
that,
father.
I appreciate that. And also, I'm going to be posting a lot more stuff on my Facebook. I don't care what it costs me, or if it costs me more of the freedom that I have lost to my son. But if anybody wants to follow me on my Facebook page, it's really easy. You can follow me at Adam Vina on Facebook. I will be posting a lot more stuff in regards to this. I'll be posting the Christmas presents that my son has not received for the last 3 years. I'll be posting a lot more stuff. I feel that I had, since no one is legally helping me, or there's no one fighting for me, or more importantly my son, that the only way that I can truly feel that I'm fighting for my son is by social media. And I don't know what exactly I'm going to be doing with social media in regards to this, but I'm gonna have to do something. And so yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I don't know if I'm gonna
Okay,
make
well, we'll be
t-shirts.
watching. We'll be
Yeah.
watching.
Yeah, and you guys, Eddie and Terry, I really lastly, I really appreciate you guys for stepping up and making this happen. And I really appreciate you guys. You besides my family, you two are the only ones that are not friends or family that have actually listened to my story and actually help me and listen to my story. I know I'm rambling here, so thank you.
That's fine. That's what the Father Voices is, to give fathers a chance to voice, whether it's, struggles like this, or some fathers to voice their successes. This is what the Father's Voices is to give fathers an outlet.
And if you could save one child besides your child, I mean, just to save, we want to save all the kids. And you've probably saved, without even realizing it, how many children from going into this. And, you may have saved many, many lives. So thank you for being so brave and speaking with us.
Thank you. And thank you for being brave and allowing me to speak.
Anytime.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I think we're pretty much ready to close up. Was there anything else you want to say, Adam?
No, I think that's it. I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Oh, perfect. All right. Well, I think we went a little over the hour time I initially said, but we're still recording. We still went live. Had a few technical difficulties here and there, and Adam, I'm a father. I've been going through this. You were saying about how you thought people wouldn't believe you. I've been there, done that, lost the movie rights. So I feel you. When I say it, I ain't bullshitting you. I feel you on that.
Thank you. Thank you, Eddie.
And yeah, and I'll end it. So maybe we'll do another episode where we can give some more updates, and we'll just take this one day at a time.
Awesome, thank you. And then when can I expect this to be, I guess, posted on all the platforms that you guys use, so I can get it shared?
So once I hit the end recording, the system takes a few hours, give or take, to format it, and then it usually automatically formats and streams it to the platforms. And I can give you a direct link to this on TalkShoe, or I can put you to the Amos Ministries, I believe I mentioned to you in one of the prior Facebook messages, and then you can see it Facebook, BitChute, Google Podcasts, etc. So once the platform's done with formatting it, then it'll auto stream it. Some services do stream it faster than others. I've had some days Google puts it up first, some days it's YouTube, so it kind of depends on the tech stuff. But as soon as it's available and it's done that, I will reach out to you on Facebook and say, hey, here's where your story's at.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you very much, guys. You guys have a good Sunday afternoon, and I will be talking with you guys soon.
Okay, you take care. Thank you.
You too, Terry. Thank you, Terry. Thank you.
All right, bye. I'm going to stop the recording, and if you need anything else, Terry or Adam, you can just hit me up on Facebook.
All right. Thank you so much, Eddie.
Yeah. All right. Bye, all.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.